Hey, if you like that slow blues, check out Jack Roosh on YouTube or Instagram. I'll put a link in the description below. Let's talk about how you create a solo like this. It starts with the tones that are in the chord that's being played behind you. So you really got to understand a little bit about music theory to know what's going to sound good there. Now, yeah, you can play your minor pentatonic, but we know that not every chord has every note in the minor pentatonic, and so if you're just playing one scale through the whole song, then yeah, it's possible to hit some notes that don't sound as good. So if you can coordinate the tones that are in the chord that's being played in the progression, then it can really unlock some more creativity on your part and really empower you to play the right notes over that chord. So with doing this, you got to understand there are a few terms that really mean the same thing. So a chord tone, that's whatever notes are in that chord. If you play a chord just like this, then you're playing all notes at the same time. If you do something like that, then that's called an arpeggio, where you're kind of breaking up the chords and you're playing them close together, but not all at the same time. It's more broken up like that. Within that chord, even though you're playing 4, 5, 6 strings, there's only really 3 notes. If it's a major and minor chord, there are only 3 notes. So you could call those triads because a major, minor chord, only 3 notes. So triad, arpeggio, chord tone, we're talking about the notes that are in the chord. And so there are 3 of them. If it's a major or minor chord, you got your 1, your 3, and your 5 of whatever scale you're in. So if you're playing C major, then C is your 1. That's where you get your name. That's your root. That's your home base. You want to always default to that root. You always want to bring that out. So it's important to kind of know where those C's are on the guitar, because those are your roots. So your root, that's your 1. Then you got your 3rd, which is, if it's C major, it's an E, and then you got your 5th, which is a G. And so if you play C, E, G anywhere on the fretboard over a C chord, it's going to sound good. Now, the song at the beginning of this in the demo was a C minor, so the C and the G are the same, the 1 and the 5, but what makes a minor chord is that you flat the 3rd. So we're going to take that E, make it an E flat, and there's a C minor arpeggio or a C minor triad. And playing any of these 3 notes over that chord is going to sound good, because those notes are already being played in the backing track behind you. So C major, C minor, and then you can move that around. Now your minor pentatonic already has those 3 notes in it, and it just adds 2. You have the 4th and the flat 7 in there. So this is simplified. Now, can you make an entire solo out of chord tones? Yes, you can. It might be a little boring depending on how you use them, but it's a really good starting point. And especially when the chords change, if you know what triad or what chord tones fit that chord, then it's going to lead to you playing stuff that sounds better, that fits that chord. So let's look at the solo at the start of this. It starts on an E flat. That's the minor 3rd of that C minor chord. So kind of a little quarter bend, and then I'm back to that home base, that root note there. And then right there, I'm bending up to a G, which is the 5th. So already put a couple extra notes in there, but you can see how the triad really is versatile and useful, and you can add in some bends, and the rhythm really makes a big difference. But there again, there's another C. I'm back to that C. So let's take a look at how to find these and a couple of tools that are really useful for me. I built the backing track for that solo off an app called irealpro. I saw it on Rick Beato's channel. I love it. It's really useful for practicing improvisation. You can just put in a chord progression and it gives you a band. You get bass lines, you get drums, you can customize the tempo, you can change the key if you want to work on that. So it's really worth, I think it's $14, but it's worth it for being able to practice. You can get it on your Mac, you can get it on your iOS devices. It's really a useful app. So have a look. I'll put a link to that below, the irealpro app. Also, first tool we're going to look at is called Guitar Scientist. It's a way to really visualize what I'm talking about here, where those notes are. And that's going to make all the difference in you being able to be free on the guitar and start improvising solos that have some soul, and you're not worried about hitting a wrong note because you know the triads, you know where they are. Then you know what's going to sound good when that chord is being played. So it's really important for following the changes. You know, you can play songs in C minor. You can play the C minor pentatonic the whole time. You're going to hit some notes that might not sound that great over a chord where, you know, that tone, it's in the C minor pentatonic, but it might not be in the chord that's being played. So have a look at this tool. Let's get started. Here's a tool I find really useful for mapping out the fretboard and really visualizing different ideas on the guitar. Just go to guitarscientist.com, and the first thing you need to do is select the root of what you're doing. So we're talking about C minor here, so I'm going to select the C on the 3rd fret there, and then I'm going to generate some triads, which, remember, triad, arpeggio, chord tones, those are the same thing. If it's a major or minor chord, it's going to be a triad. There's just 3 notes that make up that chord. So we're going to go to scales, and there's a triad function right down here. You can do so our root is C, and then we're going to do a minor triad. It's going to show us, if we click generate, it's going to show us where all of those chord tones are on the fretboard. And remember that the way a chord is made, a minor chord is going to have your first note of the scale, that's your 1, and then a minor 3rd, which is the flat 3rd of the scale, and then the 5, the 5th note of the scale there. So this would be a triad here, and any combination of those 3 would make a triad. Those are your chord tones, and so you can use these to solo. The solo in the intro starts right here, and you gently bend this to make a quarter tone bend, and then you land on the root. The 1 is your root. That's your home base. You want to default to that. You want to come back to the root, constantly coming back to the root of the chord, and that just really anchors you in that home base. And so notice there's some familiar kind of shapes here. You've got this shape, which looks like just your bar minor chord. You got this one, which, you know, remember the first time you learned a B minor, this is that shape. It's just kind of slid up 1 fret, but that's that shape there. You've got this, kind of looks like a D7 shifted over 1 string. So you got some familiar shapes that if you learn how those apply to whatever chord you're talking about, then it gives you some places to really anchor your solos. You can also superimpose this on like the minor pentatonic scale, because remember, pentatonic, there are 5 notes in it. Well, this is 3. These are triads. So to make the pentatonic scale, you got to add 2 more notes in there. You got to add the 4 and the flat 7, and that's going to give you your full minor pentatonic scale. So you can add those in there, but if you just want to build it on the triad, then this is how you do it. And you can do this for any chord. You can come over here and change the color, and you could even change the root. So let's say your next chord that you're going to is an F minor. Then you would click on an F and then generate your scale, your minor triads, and it'll show you how those map out on this particular you can see how they intertwine there. So, you know, if you wanted to make one of these for your song, you could have the red notes coded to your C minor, your blue notes coded to an F minor. That's just one way to map out some good sounding notes. You know, you want to be able to use as many notes as possible to make your solos, but the triads are a really good starting point. And you can see how it becomes important to know where notes are on the fretboard so that you can find those roots, right? So that you can figure that out. Now, you can memorize the intervals, or you can, you know, get further down with music theory, and you can do things like, let's see, we can change what it shows, so it shows the note name, so you would know what note you're actually playing when you play it, and you're not just memorizing shapes. Shapes are a good starting point, but knowing the notes that build those shapes means that you can move that in different places, and you can apply it to different keys if you learn how those different keys work. So this is a good starting point to really launch you into that next level of playing. It's got an app called irealpro. Now this is something that I saw on Rick Beato's channel, and it, like the name implies, it sounds like a real band is playing. So this is the chord progression for the slow blues that you heard at the beginning of this video. It's a progression that Jack Roosh put out on his channel, and I wanted to recreate it, and so I came over here. I found a slow-mo blues setting, and just entered in these chords. It was a little tricky to figure out exactly where the changes happened, but I think I got pretty close, and it still, I think, sounds good on the recording. So here's how you do it. You got 4. Well, first you have to click edit, and then you got 4 blocks here. This one's in 12/8, so still kind of like it's in 4/4. You have units of 3 4 times. So to get a C minor, you would press the C key and then the minus sign, and if you put in the letter, then you can come over here and you can pick the different symbols. The minus sign is minor, and it's pretty standard, kind of a Nashville kind of thing. The little degree sign is diminished, and of course you got your different numbers and your sus chords and different intervals that are sharp or flat or added, or and you put those in there. So it's pretty user friendly. If you need to build, it's good to start from something that's already there. So like a 12-bar blues, if you want to go find one, you can click this button over here and it'll take you to the web, and it's a little weird to navigate, but if you go to the you sign up for an account, go to the advanced search, and you want to search a single content type, and then you can put your search terms in there, and see, it'll give you a bunch of different things, and you go find one, and and you go from there. The cool thing about this, you can do an entire playlist and just get tons of progressions to work with. But once you get one that's in the ballpark of what you want, you come over here and you can change it around. You can just hit delete and stuff will go away. If you want things to repeat, you got this right here. You can add in the bar lines. You can change the time signature if you need to in the middle of the song. It's a really versatile thing. You can add some different endings if you want, even a coda. That gets a little more complicated, but it is useful if you're working from a piece of music that you have the music for, but you don't have a backing track for, and you don't have time to sit down and record all the parts yourself, or if you don't play all the instruments. This, for things like blues, jazz, kind of a folksy sound, even a little bit of a funky sound or a neo soul sound, you can kind of get some R&B grooves going there. So this really useful tool that I think is worth the money if you're trying to learn to improvise and build your own progressions and experiment in following those chord tones. The cool thing about when you get it built and when you hit play is you can do the count in, of course, and it'll show you which measure you're on. So this is like those backing tracks you can see on YouTube, and the chord changes or lights up whenever you're on it. This does the same thing, except it's fully customizable. I mean, you can change the key if you want to practice soloing in different keys. You can change the tempo if you want to do that, and it still has that real feel to it. So highly recommend this tool for learning improvisation. You can change which instruments you have. Really a lot of versatility here in it. For computer generated, it's one of the most real sounding ones that's out there. This isn't your typical MIDI, really robotic sound there. It's pretty real sounding. So try it out if you haven't yet. Give it a go. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. If you made it this far, please leave a like. Subscribe to my channel. I'm sharing stuff with you as I learn it, and it's exciting. This journey is never ending on the musical road. It's always fun to learn a little bit and share a little bit. So if I've helped you in any way, leave me a comment, like and subscribe. Let me know what you'd like to know more about. Let me know what you're learning. Let me know how you can apply or how you are applying some of these things. So have fun. Keep playing.